Welcome to episode 432 of the DFO Rundown. As always, brought to you by Bet365. It's never ordinary. At Bet365, you can get in the game. Use the promo code NATION, N-A-T-I-O-N, NHL, NBA, and of course, Wild Card Weekend in the National Football League, all on tap at Bet365. As man, we might have to come up with a Friday name of him, the two cue balls or something. I don't know. Jason Gregor, Mike Rupp, to join us. Rupper, how you doing, my man?
What's up, buddy? I mean, I think if either I go a little shorter on the beard or you go a little bit longer, we could be on to something. We're both wearing hoodies. Like, this is we got to come up with some kind of slogan here for these. I think that it's like a mirror image of each other.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, two good-looking guys. I like it. Lots to discuss right now. Let's start in the East, and let's start with the team because, man, there's lots of rumors and then bad outings surrounding the New Jersey Devils right now. They lose again last night. The Pittsburgh Penguins are rolling, by the way, but the Devils lose. You know, there's the rumblings that they've asked Dougie Hamilton to waive his no-move clause a few times. He said thanks, but no thanks. And the Devils are in a little bit of free fall mode right now.
They are, and it's tough because I think the big thing with a lot of this too, it's like they have character, they push back, but they've got like one desperate push, and then there'll be a moment in the game that something will go against them, and then they're done, they're toast, and it just doesn't seem to be much of a pushback after that. So. In last night's game against Pittsburgh, you had like the second half of the first period. They had a really good push. They dominated a lot of areas of that game at that point, and you don't really have anything to show for it. And we know this in any fan base any fan that's watching. Like, we see that in the NHL a lot of times. It's so frustrating when you dominate a period, a stretch of a game, and you got really nothing to show for it. But then it's like, how do you manage that next moment? And it just feels like for the Devils, they have that next moment goes against them, and then they got nothing left. So it's a fragile group. We see it a lot. They're in a tough spot. I mean, we talked about it. I know that the media has been all over it. It's a fan base that it's getting loud. I mean, the best thing for them right now is that they're still on this road trip. They're going to Winnipeg, then Minnesota Wild will wrap that trip. But it's probably best that they're not in New Jersey right now. But they gotta end this trip the right way. I mean, Winnipeg hasn't won forever, and you're gonna go into what if you drop that game and then you go to Minnesota, and then Devils fans are gonna sit there and watch Quinn Hughes on the Wild. This could get even uglier over the next two games. So yeah, the Devils are in a bad place right now.
Well, they're in a bad place because while they're struggling, the Penguins are rolling. They've won 6 in a row. The Buffalo Sabres have won 12 of 13 games, and those two teams now hold down the final wild card spots, or both the wild card spots in the Eastern Conference. And I just look at New Jersey, and their best guys got to start playing better. Let's just call a spade here. I think their best guys got to be much better.
Yeah, I mean, you can go and mention that would be pretty accurate for a lot of the guys. Jesper Bratt is one that's just he's a super talented player that's just not feeling it. He's not feeling it this year. This is a rough year for Bratt. He had a breakaway early in that game, and just kind of comes and fires at 5-hole. Just doesn't look like a real confident play for a guy that's super creative, and when he gets in those open ice moments, usually you can see some pretty dynamic plays happening. So he's one. Jack Hughes is. He's dealing with it still with that hand, that finger. He's not himself. I mean, there's no other way of putting it. This is a high-end player that's not all that high-end right now. And he's trying to play through this, but they need a spark, and they're not getting it right now. And they're, like I said, they're a fragile group that they're not getting much from the depth parts of their lineup to spark them. And I think the big thing that's concerning too is when things do go south in a game, they lack that pushback it almost doesn't look like they care. I don't think that's the case. I think it's a good group of guys. I just think that they don't have players that necessarily will go down kicking and screaming. And that's a problem, because then that's all of a sudden looks like you're disinterested and you don't care. And I think that's where the fan base is a little bit frustrated.
And then you look at the Pittsburgh Penguins, who they lost to last night. The Pens have won 6 in a row. They got a Jenny Malkin back. Stuart Skinner in that trade. He's won 3 in a row now. His first game was against his former team in Edmonton. And the 5 goals. Since then, he's got a .915 save percentage. In his last 3 games, he's only allowed 3 goals. The Penguins, Rupper, I'll give him credit. I didn't think the Penguins could stick around. And I thought a few weeks ago that maybe they were starting to slide, and they've completely reversed it. They've, the Uno reverse card, as the kids like to say, and they are rolling up the standings, winners of 6 in a row. And you know what? They're now nipping at the heels of the Philadelphia Flyers and only 2 back of the Islanders. They put themselves in a really good spot, and we're starting to see a little bit of separation as the Devils and the Rangers, who have played the most games, are falling back.
Yeah, the Penguins, they had the great start, and I think a lot of people, myself included, thought that they'd come back down to earth, and then they had a stretch where you're like, all right, this is a little more what we were thinking. And then they've pushed back, though, and that's kind of what I'm talking about with teams is winning games through games 1 through 20. It's never easy to win in the National Hockey League, but that's the time where things are it's a little different. It's a little squirrely league at that time. I think we see it where teams start the season very, very well. Then it's like 20 to 40, looks different, 60 to 40 to 60, 60 to 80, and so on and so forth. It just gets harder, and it's you got to find ways, and they are right now. I mean, the Penguins their power play is lethal. It's been very solid all season long, so that's given them these opportunities, even in games where maybe they don't deserve it. That's what a good power play does. Keeps you in the game, keeps you alive, maybe wins you the game. They don't rely on it every night, but when they need it, it comes through in the right times. And you get Malkin back in the lineup. That's a group that line. If you remember at the beginning of the year it was Mantha, Brazeau, and Malkin, which were incredible, all 3 big boys.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of like, we had injuries. You got guys in and out, Gino being one of them. They just, whatever iteration of a line 2 you've had, they've gotten some good results from it. So Erik Karlsson, he looks good, man. He looks good right now. And he has moments where it's like, whoa, that wasn't great as far as maybe being out there for a goal against. But for a team that can strike and strike many times in the game, Erik Karlsson's found a nice little groove here. So Penguins, look out. They've punched back. And through this last segment of games, they've been really good.
And the Buffalo Sabres staying out east and into the Atlantic Division, 12 or 13, and hasn't got a lot of talk, Rupper, but they made it that big trade in the offseason. Everyone's like, oh my God, they gave up JJ Peterka, another skilled player. Well, here we are through 44 games. Josh Doan has 14 goals and 29 points. JJ Peterka in Utah has 15 goals and 29 points. Right. And then they also got Kesselring in that trade. That trade's worked out for Buffalo. Kevin Adams, there's a lot of moves he made that weren't good, but that trade is looking pretty good. And the Sabres have really started to look like, and even with Alex Lyon being banged up, they look like a much better team. They look now like the team I thought they'd be at the start of the year, where they could compete for a playoff spot. I said, hey, I thought Buffalo could push into a wild card position. And here we are. I know that the season's not over, but it looks like, that 10-game run wasn't just a blip like the 2018 10-game run.
No, I mean, they've been impressive. And the fact that they have the 10-game run, they lose the one, and they get right back to winning, I think is a great sign for a team that's ready to take another step here. And you see where they are in the standings. You talk about trades, and this is one where I think a lot of times people just want to just kick the Buffalo Sabres when they're down, because we've seen moments, remember the Dylan Cousins, Josh Norris trade, where Cousins goes over and he looks pretty darn good in Ottawa, and then Norris gets hurt, but you got Josh Norris back now, and that's right at the cusp of this thing taking off, and he looks really good. So if Norris can stay healthy, that could be a huge difference maker at the center ice position for Buffalo. But I mean, on paper, when you look at Buffalo, and this has been like this for a while, and we know how dangerous it is looking at teams on paper. But this is a team's D-core that if you looked at this D-core with Samuelsson, Dahlin, Byram, and Power, that's pretty good. Like that in theory, that should be a very, very good decor. And I think we're starting to see that it is. They're starting to put that together as well. So the biggest thing for me, I think, with Buffalo is they get timely goaltending. I don't think they defend all that great, but they've been getting better goaltending. Alex Lyon did an incredible job at the start of that 10-game run. And then it kind of UPL started getting going later on. But, man, you get a little bit of goaltending. We know how dangerous that team could be offensively. And they seem to be the real deal right now.
Yeah, they look well. You look at teams in that division. Montreal last year had the 91 points. You know what? They're right atop them, the Detroit Red Wings. And, the Canadiens, they had a little blip, and I think they've kind of righted the ship. And to me, I'm going to say Montreal and Detroit, they look like playoff teams, almost locks for me. Like they got a 9-point gap over Florida right now. And the Panthers, we'll get to them in a second, but I think they're in a little bit of trouble here with all their road games and how they're playing. And, Marchand now nicked up. But I look at Detroit and Montreal. Now, they both give up a lot of goals, Rupper, but they can score. And, Montreal's power play is good. Their young guys are getting better. And then Patrick Kane scores his 500th in Detroit. So we'll get to that in a sec. But when you look at the Habs, I view them. I think the Habs now, I'm pretty confident I can say they're a playoff team. Now, where are they going to finish? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, maybe wild card. But I do think Montreal is a playoff team. What have you seen from the Habs lately that makes you think either agree or disagree with what I say?
I'm starting to believe in them. I probably been one of the later ones too, and that doesn't mean I don't like the Montreal Canadiens and what they are. I think they have a super bright future. I just think they arrived a little earlier last year in the way that things went, but to almost on the same level of the way I see them with the Pittsburgh Penguins and to a higher degree. They started off great, then I thought we were starting to see a market correction on the Montreal Canadiens. And they're saying, no, this is us. And they're pushing back. And that's huge. It is huge to have that and have the players to do it. And I think that's what leads me to what I've been impressed with. They've got gamers, man. We saw Nick Suzuki was a gamer down the stretch last year and what he did to get this team into the playoffs. It was it was more than just him, but it was an incredible individual effort to will his team in. And then you look at this year and he's playing a high level of hockey. He's been great. Cole Caufield has been awesome. He's got 21 and 21, I believe. He's been fantastic. Slavkovsky's taken a step. I mean, you look at just some great shrewd moves. I mean, Texier's got the hat trick last night. I mean, since he's been there, he's been fantastic. You got Kapanen's been a nice, seeing some growth there. I think the biggest concern with them for me, and maybe this is looking too far ahead, I'm still a little concerned with their size overall come playoff time. But are they a playoff team? Yeah. They're not showing any reason why they're not. They got a 3-goalie kind of group going right now. That's fine. I don't think that's how they plan to do it. But as long as you've got some options, and all 3 goaltenders at different stages this season have been really good, roll with that, man. And they're finding themselves in a good spot, and you're starting to get some separation in that Atlantic Division.
And the team that they're battling with, obviously Tampa Bay is good, but you look at Detroit Red Wings, and Patrick Kane became the 4th American-born player to reach 500 goals. And he's got 1,369 points. He is 22 points away from passing Brett Hall for the most points as an American. He is 6 points away from passing Mike Modano. He's obviously never going to catch Brett Hall in the goal scoring department, but depending on how long he plays, he has a chance maybe to catch Modano in points. But he is definitely, in goals, but he's definitely going to be there in points, maybe as early as the end of this season, for goodness sakes. A lot of people wonder, like, greatest American player. Where do you put Patrick Kane?
I have him as the greatest American player right now. It's certainly Mike Modano is going to be one that's going to get a lot of attention, deservingly so, and people might go there. Some people might go to Chris Chelios. I mean, there's options here, but I think Patty Kane. It's been really impressive to watch him. I mean, I was in the league when he broke in, and he's evolved in a lot of different ways. Because here's the thing, when we're talking about some of these players, I think is so mind-blowing to me. Much smaller scale, but when you're talking about the Ovi record beating Wayne, Wayne was always revered. I mean, Wayne was always revered as being the best passer in the game. Like, I don't think Wayne was revered as being the best goal scorer in the NHL through his career, but like maybe that's a bad comp because of course he had 90 whatever goals the one year. Like he could score goals, but I guess goal scoring was secondary to Wayne Gretzky, and Wayne Gretzky was the all-time leading goal scorer. So that shows how great he was. So this is no comp to that at all. But Patty Kane, like, he came in as a pure passer. So the fact that he got 500 goals, like, that's pretty significant for a guy that was never really revered as being a shooter. And so once he got his 30 goals for the first time, I feel like that was when, okay, we got to play this guy differently. Because you used to be able to play Patty Kane, play off him a little bit, and he'd have some space, and that's fine, but you could take away passing lanes. And then he wasn't really a guy that was going to beat you from distance. How about his goal last night? He had 2, 500 being the empty netter. But the one, he's just like cruise control, not moving his feet, just going slow. And that's one of his great attributes he has. It slows the game down and just looks so nonchalant. Like so nonchalant, just comes in here when he gets $4.99 and just boop, fires it home. He's smooth, man. He's a smooth hockey player. He's been for a long time. I think as we sit here today, for me, he's the greatest American-born player to ever play the game.
Okay. And I should say there's 6 Americans with 500 goals. I know we say American born, but because Brett Hull is deemed American, but there's actually 6 now. Hall's going to pass Joey Mullen here, has a chance maybe to pass Jeremy Roenick this year in goals. But by the end of the year, he'll have a very realistic chance here to be the all-time leader in points when it's all said and done by the end of this season. The Red Wings and the Canadiens, 2 teams that I think are looking to be buyers. Rupper. Yeah. And I know there's lots of talk. Montreal would like a center. I've heard the name Nazem Kadri, and I think Kadri would make a lot of sense for Montreal because he adds them a little, some skill, but some grit, right? And like, I like Josh Anderson. I like Gallagher. They got guys who play hard, but a veteran guy who's won a cup, who plays gritty, who's got skill, man, he'd be a very good fit in Montreal. Is there any area you look specifically where the Red Wings, like, everybody needs centers, it seems right now, but other than the center, you think the Red Wings, like, do they got to upgrade their defense? Do they need a little bit more experience on the back end? They definitely got size in the back end. There's some young guys there, but what do you think that Steve Yzerman's going to do?
I mean, honestly, I really like the build of this team. I mean, you made your goaltending changes in the offseason. And that, that's, when they're healthy, I think that's a great position. That should be a position of strength for them. You look at the growth of their back end. I think you're having all the big time steps being taken this year from Sandin-Pellikka or to Mo Seider and Edvinsson. I mean, this has been pretty spectacular. And it's young, but I mean, maybe that's part of the process, is not to do too much on the back end or anything. Maybe just add a depth piece as far as just building out your NHL caliber defenseman in case you get into a pinch with injuries, but you got to let these guys experience it. And I look up front. I mean, I'd probably say it's funny. Maybe I'm the wrong person to ask, because I think every team that we're talking about, whether it's the Montreal Canadiens, whether New Jersey Devils get their act together, the Detroit Red Wings, those are all Naz Kadri for me. Like, those are great options. Naz Kadri be able to slot maybe a little better this lineup and have options, because you got in the center ice position, you got Larkin, Comfer, Rasmussen. It'd be nice to have a Kadri option in there. And so I think Naz Kadri would be a phenomenal add for a team like Detroit. But other than that, I mean, this kind of feels like that year. Like, I don't know, I might be wrong. I don't know if it's the time to make a big move. Like, this is all part of the process, just getting in, let these guys experience it and see what they do. I think unless they're struggling and they need a shot in the arm, maybe you do something then. But to me, this is a playoff team through and through, and I can't wait to see them back.
Well, they're on a kind of a collision course. I think Tampa Bay, I know they're a point behind them today, but they got games in hand. They got a much higher points percentage. I think Montreal and Detroit could see an original 6 matchup in the first round. And I really think that those 3 teams have now created some separation. Buffalo is 5 back, so not totally out of it yet, but maybe more wild card. But Toronto, you look at Toronto, they're 6 back of Tampa Bay. Tampa has game in hand. Florida is 8 back of Tampa Bay. and Tampa Bay has games in hand. Like the Leafs and the Panthers right now, when the way everything shapes up, I'm not sure both of them can make the playoffs, Rupper. Just looking at the numbers.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, you got a point there. And it's probably because of those teams that we talked about. There has not been the falling off from the Montreal Canadiens to Detroit Red Wings. So, maybe I don't know where you were at with this as far as what which division was going to be putting in more teams. Was there going to be a 5-3 in the East? Was there going to be a 4-4 as far as teams getting in from respective divisions? I mean, that stuff matters. I mean, I don't know. Looking at it here, it's like with Montreal and Detroit, I would expect Tampa, like you said, just to keep continually climbing. I think there was eventually a path where I had Toronto and the Florida Panthers getting in because I probably didn't see Montreal and Detroit getting in. Well, we just kind of answered that and where we feel that they're at, and they're not showing like they're going to slow down at all. So now you got to see some pretty big movement here from a team like the Florida Panthers. The Toronto Maple Leafs are looking better. Auston Matthews is looking better. So I think that bodes well for them. But yeah, it's starting to look like it's going to be one of those teams. Honestly, maybe not even. That's what's been so interesting in this Eastern Conference. But I still would have to bet one of those teams, whether it's Toronto or Florida, get in. And I wouldn't close the door on both of them getting in. But there's a lot of work to be had.
Well, Toronto is 6-2-2 in their last 10. Matthews has woken up, which is huge for them. But both of those teams have way more road games than home games down the stretch. Florida's already played 26 home games. They got 15 home games left, and they have 24 on the road. Toronto has played 25 and 18. So, you do the math. They got 16 home games left, and they have 23 on the road. Like that's a pretty big, difference, especially when you're going out all the way to the East Coast from Florida a few times. They're a little bit nicked up, and, Toronto's nicked up. That's why, honestly, you just crunch the numbers. There's only so many points to go around, and those other teams have already taken some points, Rupper. So you're either going to need one of Montreal or Detroit to fall off, and nothing I'm seeing shows me that they will. And that's why I think it might just come down to, I don't know if both of those teams can get in. I know they're going to say, well, hey, they're only 4 back of Pittsburgh, and that's valid for the wild card spot, but that means they both have to get in. And the Atlantic Division, like, what about the Capitals? Like, they're still hanging around. So I just think they're in tough, like, two teams that have to be on the road. And right now, I like Toronto's chances better than Florida, to be honest.
Yeah,
right. Like,
no, I would agree.
This isn't playoff. We're only talking in the regular season. Florida looks a little fatigued. They look a little older. They're a little bit banged up. Now they are going to get Tkachuk back very soon, right? He doesn't have the non-contact jersey on in practice anymore, so that's a good sign. But you get to a point, like even Winnipeg said it yesterday, like you can't keep talking about, eventually we'll get there. Because eventually we'll get there means that you run out of time. And like everybody keeps mentioning St. Louis. Well, I actually went back and looked at St. Louis, Rupper, that year. And I got it in my notes that I wrote down on where they were, right? And they weren't as far out of it as people remember, later in that year as the season went along for the Jets. I mean, for the Blues, because on January 8th, they played 41 games and they were 7 points back. When they played 45 games, they were only 4 points out, right? Like it wasn't like this massive hole, right? Like people are trying to compare Winnipeg. Don't compare Winnipeg. So Florida already now, you're 9 points back. That's a lot, man. That's a lot to make up on Detroit and Montreal. And so that's why I think they're kind of a wild card team only at this point. At best.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it would be something substantial, and that would mean the bottom would come out from one of those other teams. And I think that just with the pushback that we've seen from Montreal, it doesn't look like I don't think the bottom's going to fall out. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know if they're going to play at the same clip, but I just think that they're a team it's just not going to come out from under them. So it's a tough spot to be when you need help. Like in the Florida Panthers, they need help. They are going to need some assistance. And just even look at the standpoint that, what is Buffalo, you said? Are they 12 of 13? Is that what they are? They've won 12 of 13, I think, right?
Yeah, the Sabres. They're on fire.
So Buffalo, like, look at what they've done winning 12 of 13. And really, when you look at it, I mean, they're just barely in. and they weren't like so far out. Like they were last place. They were down there. It wasn't that long ago that they were down where, I mean, it was them in Toronto. They were kind of battling back and forth in that last spot. So with that being said, like there's only a point separation between Buffalo and Toronto now, but you go on a run like that, like they didn't make up a ridiculous amount of ground. They made up. I don't have the date in front of me, but they made headway, but it wasn't like they overcame, 14, 15 points. Like, no, man, like it's hard in this NHL season, the way that teams are like making up 6 points is a lot bigger. So the 6 points now is like what 10 points used to be. You know what I mean? Like that's what it kind of feels like. So it's not going to be easy for these teams to try to come back into the mix.
No, not at all. And you got some of the other teams feeling good about themselves. So you have to play well, and then you have to hope that they fall off. That's what makes it one of those other teams, man, that to put stake in them, the Ottawa Senators, Rupper. Like they did go out and sign James Reimer because they need some goaltending. Their goaltending isn't good enough. They don't have Allmark. They addressed the idiotic rumors. It is amazing to me what people will believe online as a rumor. And then they have videos of something that actually happens and they don't believe it. It's wild. But anyway, you look at the Sens, man, and they don't look good at all, Rupper. Like they can't defend. They can't get their goaltending isn't very good. They've been inconsistent and they're in trouble. I don't see how the Sens salvage this season. Do you?
Yeah, no, they're in a bad place, and that last night game was the wrong opponent for them to be against to get the Avs, and that's not a great opponent for anybody, especially when the Avs have lost 2 in a row, because you know that they're going to have something to say. And it was a tough game because they did have some pushback there. There was they had the goal to kind of get going, and I think that made it 3. Had the goal that was in offside, so they started coming. They had the goalie change. Marilainen started the game. He started the second of back-to-back. He played in the first one as well, and that's been an area that their goaltending has been struggling. But they got these young guys in there that they're trying to navigate this time until they can get Allmark back. And so they make the goalie switch. You get some pushback. That second goal then is disallowed, and then it's just like, you have Colorado just takes off. They just go. Sogard's in net, and very rarely do you see it where a goaltender comes out of the game, then he goes back in. But you got Sogard going in there, and it's just he's seeing some stuff, man. Like it was Colorado just putting on the afterburners. So then Marilainen comes back in. That is an area that's been really tough for them is the goaltending, because they're not a team that defends a ton. I think they're a team that shows heart. I mean, they showed some frustration. You saw Stützle going after, Sam Girard in the game late, fighting him, and I just think they're going to run out of road here. And they're going to run out of road just for all those things we talked about. And this has been kind of a mess of a season here in Ottawa.
Now, speaking of that Ottawa game, shout out to Josh Manson. I don't know if you saw the game, Rupper. So Josh Manson gets in a fight 2 minutes into the game. Then he scores the opening goal 10 minutes in the game. Then he assists on the second goal of the game. So he had the Gordie Howe hat trick last night in the first 17 minutes of the game. He then scored another goal, added another assist. So he ends up with 4 points. He's +5. He has 5 hits. He had 4 block shots. Like, I wish he would have fought again. He would have had the double Gordie Howe Hattie in the same freaking game, Rupper. Like, I don't know if I got to look that up from the NHL if it's ever happened. But Josh Manson, that was one of the greatest games by a defenseman in NHL history last night. Fight, 2 goals, 2 assists, +5. Are you kidding me? It was unreal.
He was incredible. And there was a scrum, too, where he was getting into it again. And I'm like, oh, man, let's go nail the double Gordie. But that's his shot. His one goal was just an absolute bomb from the back end, too. So, I mean, that's that was quite the performance. He was one of the stars of the night that I picked last night, just because it's good to see it happen. Sure. And that's what makes. Do we expect Josh Manson to have big nights like that? No, like that's not what he's asked to do. But I think that's what makes Colorado scary, is that he's a good defenseman who could do a little bit of everything. We know he's tough. that's what makes Colorado different, because their decor, they all got the green light. It's not just a Cale Makar. Like they can all do a little bit of everything. So, but I think the biggest attribute he brings, he's tough as nails, man. He had that fight with Clevin, and he was throwing, he was going over, under, over, under. I'm like, oh, this guy's on a mission tonight.
Oh, yeah. No, like, and I think people, when they won the cup, Josh Manson was unreal in the cup final. And really, it was really good that whole playoffs, right? So he is big, tough, he's got some skill. And man, that game last night, though, was epic. I'm going to have to ask my buddy at the NHL stats department, has a guy ever had the double Gordy in a game? Because that would be sick.
That would be a great stat to look up.
Yeah, it take some time, but we'll have to look it up for sure. Moving out west now, because the Avs are still they're very good. Nathan MacKinnon, Josh, how good Josh Manson was? That we talked about Josh Manson's game before, another 4-point game for Nathan MacKinnon. That's how good Josh Manson was last night. But the Avs are obviously very good. The team in the West, they're worse than New Jersey, but like the Winnipeg Jets, my God, they've won 1 out of 15. They've lost 11 straight. Their last 4 games, they scored first in every game. They had a 2-0 lead twice. They had a 4-1 lead against Toronto. They had a 3-1 lead against Edmonton. They blew them all. They can't win right now to save their life, Rupper. Edmonton limited Winnipeg to 5 shots in the final 2 periods. And they actually went a stretch of 20 minutes and 17 seconds where they didn't have a shot. And in that time, Edmonton had 16 shots and 3 goals. Shot a team 16-0, outscored them 3-0 from the last 5:50 of the second period to the first, I think it's 14:27 of the third period, man. Like, that is utter domination. And it's not like the Oilers, the Jets are the worst team in the NHL when the other team scores first. They're 2-15-2. The Oilers were the second worst at 3-15-3, but they came back and won yesterday. So now they're 4-15-3. And obviously McDavid's, on a heater. We'll talk about that. But this Winnipeg Jets team, my God, Rupper, like, their season's over. Like, they're not making the playoffs. They ain't coming back from 12 points at this stage of the season. I'm sorry, Jets fans. It's just not happening. And like, they can't sell off. They might just, I think what the Jets have to avoid, Rupper, is winning too many games and losing out on a really good draft pick. Why not get it? Imagine implementing a top 3 pick into the lineup with Morrissey and Hellebuck and Scheifele and Connor. That would be ideal.
I don't know who they are. I don't know if the Winnipeg Jets are last season's version or this season's. I don't think they're either. They're somewhere in between, which is a pretty easy statement to make. I think it's probably leaning more towards last year's. I think they should be a better team. It's just nothing's going for them this year. Like, they don't have much going for them. And I don't know where to chalk it up to. I mean, you didn't have Adam Lowry to start the season. You think back to last season, how good Lowry, Niederreiter, Appleton, who's not there anymore, he's in Detroit. That line was so good. Nemesnikov was incredible as a second line kind of fill-in center. Perfetti was having a great year. You know about the star guys. Connor Hellebuck, what he did last year. I mean, he won the Hart Trophy. So they had a lot of good things going for them. None of those things are going for them now. Their top line's been really good all year, but that's all they've had. That is all they've had. And so I agree with you. I mean, it would be pretty great for them to be able to have that. But this is, if we're ever going to see a season where there's no complacency, you're not okay with what's going on if you're Winnipeg or a Winnipeg fan. But it's just, to me, really genuinely feels like one of those teams that is just not their year. And I know that that's maybe a cop-out. It's just, they're not this. They're not this. Like, are they slow? Yeah, they're slow. Like, they need to address that. But they're not this, what we're seeing right now. But I'll tell you what, watching that game, and I said this to you before we got on here, 3-1 game, when Connor gets his goal and they zoom in on his face and his reaction and going by the bench, I'm like, they're done. Winnipeg's done. Winnipeg's done. When you see your star players react a certain way, certain players in the league, maybe when they don't always act that way, because Connor does incredible things all the time, every single night. But when he shows a little bit of that extra passion, that it's going to be different. And then it was just, see ya. Took over. Incredible goal by Zach Hyman. mean, talk about a player that's been really hot. Man, it was, I mean, maybe it was the wrong team for them to play against, but it kind of seems like every night right now, Winnipeg's playing against the wrong team.
Yeah, well, they got the Kings tonight, so back-to-back for the Jets. The only saving grace is no Kopitar, no Armia. We're not sure if Corey Perry will be there or not, so we'll see. But the Kings could be rather desperate, and they're probably going to have to be a low-scoring game for the Jets to win right now. But it's wild where they've fallen. And another team, Rupper, who, man, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, everything was rosy. All of a sudden, the Ducks are just, they are struggling. They can't keep the puck out of their net. They are leaking goals all over the place, and their youthful defense core is really getting exposed.
Yeah, it's been a tough one to watch because I mean, geez, I'd probably date back 10 days, and I would have told you, and they're not done. I'm not trying to make it sound like they are done, but 10 days ago, I would have been like, nah, man, this team's good. They're still going to be, I still think they're going to be top 3 in the Pacific. I don't feel very good about that now. Now, when you're starting to look like, now, if you're asking me, do I like them more than I like the Seattle Kraken from here on out? Absolutely. I absolutely do. But here's the thing. You've got 3 points now, and 3 points isn't anything that you can't overcome, but Seattle's got 2 games in hand.
2 games in hand.
You know, like Nashville's played a lot of games. So when you start looking at it, and they're not really showing any signs of change in here. So this is all part of that formula. How can we find ways to win games? Everybody can win games when it's easy for you. When you're playing to your strengths and you got your young players high stepping out there, they've got talent. I like this build of this team, but they're being challenged right now. All right, can you win when it's not comfortable? Right now, they can't keep the puck out of their net. That is the biggest thing for them. And maybe that is the reason why they had this success early on, is because they did keep the puck out. Dostal started the season incredible. He had his injury. Things haven't been the same since. But they're in the middle of it right now.
Well, look at the Ducks started the season. They were 18-10-1 in their first 29 games. In their last 15 games, they are 3-10-2. And they've been outscored 68-39. They're averaging 4.5 goals against per game, Rupper, over a 15-game span. Like, they're getting outscored basically 2 goals a game over the last 15. Like, it's not just like a little blip. Like, this is massive, Rupper. This is like, you know, the day some guy finally realizes it's over. And you got to shave the melon. And for some guys, it's really hard. You know, guys like you and I don't care. But some guys, like, you know, some of our buddies, Jason Strudwick, a few other guys, I'm sure you got a few teammates that are still holding on. They're worrying about the comb over. And it's just like, oh, my God, it's ugly. Well, that's the Ducks. This is the Ducks have gotten power alleys. It's coming all the way back, Rupper, and it's looking like they can't turn it around.
Hey, they got the skullet, the full-on skullet, the Ally of Frady.
Yes.
They got the Ally of Frady going right now. And you know what, man? It's the end of the day. This league has never been more talented than it is now, and it's so fun to watch. And we're talking about appointment television every single night, and there's more and more teams each year that is appointment television. You still have to be able to defend to a certain level and keep the puck out of your net, or you're not going to thrive in this league. Because to overcome those numbers you just said in their last 15, do you understand how many goals you have to score every single night to overcome that? Like it's not,
can't do it.
You're not like Colorado wouldn't be able to do that. You know what I mean? Like so you're going to have to bring this back. Like, and I'm not asking them to all of a sudden be the LA Kings when they're in their winning ways, around that 2010 time, 2011. I'm asking just to be better, just to be a little more calculated in what you're doing, because you're not going to score enough to offset what you're giving up. And the goaltending is a problem, though. So that's not the only problem. They got to stop with some of the looks they're giving up, but it's been ridiculous.
Well, you mentioned Seattle, and you're like, geez, I might take Anaheim. The Seattle Kraken are 8-0-2 in their last 10 games. Like, they've completely turned their season around. We kind of thought they were dead in the water. And here they are, they're 8-0-2, and they're scoring goals. They got 37 goals. Like, they've always been good at defending. They're one of the best defensive teams, I think, second, third in the NHL. And, they've only allowed 20 goals in their 10 games, but they scored 37. And I'll tell you, like, their offense to me has been the biggest surprise because they couldn't score. They couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, couldn't score in the ocean. And suddenly the Seattle Kraken, like Grubauer quietly, no one's talked about it. He's had an unreal year for the Kraken. Really good and really bounced back for them. But Seattle is winning. Their leading scorer doesn't even have 30 points, for God's sakes. Connor McDavid has 41 points in 17 games. He's got points in his streak than I think 10 or 11 teams leading scorer has all year long. And the Kraken scorer doesn't even have 30 points. It doesn't matter because they win with defense. It's kind of odd. Do you think it's sustainable, though, that you can win with defense?
If they get timely goal scoring, I do think it is. If you can win with defense and get some good goaltending as well. But when you're looking over this last runs of 10 games, like this is where it gets interesting. They're not their top line has been carrying them. The Matty Beniers, McCann, Kakko line they put up points and they've been their number one line. But then you look at their second line, the Stevenson, Tolvanen, Freddie Gaudreau. I mean, they've got Gaudreau as 6 points in his last 10. You've got Stevenson with 8, and then you got Tolvanen with 9. So like all these guys, you're getting production from multiple lines. You go down into the depth parts of their lineup. Like there's not zeros across the board. Like their third and fourth line are getting the odd points here and there and contributing when they need it. So that to me makes it more sustainable because it's by committee right now. So they're not relying on. It's not like Jared McCann and Matty Beniers are at this ridiculous pace. Like they've been very good, but so have some other guys. So that's been a huge surprise. You and I have talked about it. I felt like this was a team that just needed to take just take a couple steps back here and do what's right for the future. And they're like, no, we're playing here. So I don't know how sustainable it is, but the way it's happening right now, it can continue here for a little bit.
Well, yeah, they got 7 guys with at least 3 goals in the last 10 games. And then you got Kaapo Kakko, who's got 9 points, 2 goals. So, when you get 3 goals in a 10-game stretch, right, you do the math, that's a 25-goal pace, right? And if to have 7 25-goal scorers on a team is unreal. Well, it's basically unheard of. It doesn't happen anymore. So it's not sustainable for the Kraken, but that's why they're winning, is because suddenly you got lots of different guys scoring. And, there's another team that, and this whole season's been like ebbs and flows where teams get hot. But as we get later on in the season, Rupper, there's just less time for the other teams to now make up the ground. So if you can get hot into January and you get to the end of January and now we're into game probably down to 30 games left, it's way different than a team that was out of it in November that can get hot. Sorry, there's just less time to do it. So I really think this month, really the next, 21 days, 22, the next 3 weeks, really, to get us to that weekend. I think January 31st is a Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, this year. So I look at whatever this Saturday, that you got 22 days here for these teams to find out who's really in or not. And then, you're going to have that big break in February. And man, you come out of that. And that's where I think the trade deadline might really heat up. I know some people think there's going to be all these trades before the Olympic break, and maybe that happens, but there's also 3 weeks of cap space, right, that you don't have, even though you're not playing, or you have if you're not playing. So I think we might see more of it right after the Olympic break than actually before.
I find it very interesting because I don't know how this is a little bit of foreign land for us in some regards because we haven't had an Olympic break in a long time. But you go back to last year when you got out of Four Nations, there was some struggles from individuals and some teams. And this year, this time off is going to be a lot longer. We've spoken about, is there some advantage for teams that don't have guys going to the Olympics? Maybe it's Russian players on certain franchises. Maybe it's some teams where you look at the Seattle Kraken, like, I don't know. It's just something to throw out there, some fodder. Like, I'm looking at their roster. They've got Kakko's going. Grubauer will go. Is that it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they could be a pretty rested group. And I think it's all about that push right at that stage. You talk about how many games are left at that time. And if you could put something together with how tight everything is, that's kind of a fun game inside the game, is just looking at rosters, who's going to the Olympics, who's not going to the Olympics, what team that affects. There's going to be some teams that are, you talk about being tired and some important players on that team There's some teams that don't have that problem. And I wonder if it's going to be a big advantage for them.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's bring in Pat Puff to the pod. Patty, how you doing?
I am doing great, Greg's last day before my vacation, so I'm feeling pretty good today. But today we got fill in the blank for you, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary. Bet365. Download the app, get on the game, use code NATION. Bet365 must be 19 or older. I know you guys are going to talk about McDavid, and I was kind of hoping you'd get to it before this, but that's all right. We'll get there. So it's a little McDavid heavy today. We're going to start with his incredible streak, and I want to look at the Team Canada roster because this is a conversation that's happening a lot right now on Twitter. I want you to fill in the blank for me. If you're the coach right now, who are you putting on a line with Connor McDavid? Because the crazy heater he's on right now, you're going to want to hope you can continue that into the Olympics. Greg's, what do you think?
I am putting Braden Point and Macklin Celebrini on his line. Because I'm going to keep that Crosby, Reinhart, MacKinnon line together. So I'm going to go with Celebrini and Point.
What about you, Rupp?
I like the Celebrini one. I do like the Point one as well. Yeah, I'm kind of, I don't want to be repetitive with you on that one. I do like that one. The only other one maybe I'd chuck out there is I think it would be kind of intriguing to see Brad Marchand with Connor, see what that would maybe look like. I wouldn't mind taking a peek at that. And, but I don't know, what the plan is. Like, they've got some players where you can really have identity lines, and maybe that's the idea with a Brad Marchand. But I don't know, just sometimes just seeing players, Connor is going to bring the best out of everybody. So seeing something a little bit different could be great. And you got a lot of line carriers. I mean, this is the Olympics, this is Team Canada. You're going to have offensive drivers, but Connor, it'd be fun to watch him with maybe not so big name players. Macklin's been incredible, but just a young kid, see what he could do with them.
Yeah, that's fair. I think both good options. I just know at the Four Nations, it was a conversation of, how we get them going, and then just to keep this streak would be incredible. But on that note, let's jump over to the heart race, because we notice Macklin Celebrini has entered the competition. But what I noticed is he's the exact same odds as Connor McDavid at plus 475. So my question to you guys, fill in the blank, is Connor too high of a value at 475, or is Celebrini too low? I'm curious what you guys think, Rupp.
I think Celebrini's too low, because I think a lot of people are going to wait, let me define that. Too low. What I mean by that is I think there should be more value with Macklin Celebrini in this bet, because I think a lot of people are going to get hung up on San Jose has to make the playoffs. And maybe you believe that you shouldn't be able to win an award if your team doesn't make the playoffs. But I personally think what Connor and Nate are doing, it's going to be one of the best Art Ross runs that we've seen in quite some time. But if you're talking about Macklin Celebrini, if this San Jose Sharks team, if they could just hang in there and not get in, and say they miss by 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, how is he not the MVP for me? Like, I to your what you said about McDavid, though, this kind of just feels like one of those years where he's not gonna get the love he deserves. He's just not going to get the love he deserves. It feels like everybody has written Nathan MacKinnon already, and deservedly so. He's been incredible. But what Connor's doing in the run that he's on right now, I just have a weird feeling, and those odds will back that up, that he might just not get the love that he deserves.
I think it's going to depend on how long the streak goes, and if he has another one. Like, he is on a real heater here. Like, you're kind of thinking, well, which team wouldn't he score against right now? And the Oilers have a boatload of home games coming up this month, and the road games are in Nashville, Chicago, and Vancouver. That's it. Like, not like it's not like he's going to Colorado or Dallas or anybody soon. So they have a pretty favorable schedule. 41 points in 17 games is ridiculous. If he gets a point on Saturday, you get to 18-point streaks, Robert. We'll talk about that after, because I'll go in depth. So I'm going to say Celebrini. I would probably say actually Celebrini. Remember, I think we did this a week or so ago, and I was like, I'm putting everything down on Celebrini. Now I can't do it because I'm a voter, but I was telling people, because he was, I think, plus 1,600 only a week and a half ago. And we talked about it on the pod, and now it's down to this because, hey, the Sharks are in the playoffs. And I agree with you, Rupp. Like if they miss by 1 point, they have 95 points or 94 and they miss based on the wording of the rule. How is he not? He's got more points than his second and third place guys combined. So I might actually say that MacKinnon at minus 34, those are terrible odds. Like I don't think he's that slam dunk to win at all with Celebrini going the way he's going. And McDavid, like if McDavid's run reaches 30 plus games or something stupid like that, then that changes it too. So I'm going to say McDavid's probably good, but Celebrini, the way he's going, Celebrini might even be too high at that point because I think if they make the playoffs, he's almost a no-brainer.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, like I don't mind Celebrini at plus 475. I was thinking Connor might be at around like a plus 300 or something like that, but I agree. I don't think MacKinnon should be minus 340, maybe minus 200 or something like that. It just seemed a little off, so I thought there might be some value there for someone. And the last one I have for you guys, kind of talking about the Sharks, is a good transition to this one. These are the teams in the positives to make the playoffs for the podcast listeners: Penguins, Ducks, Devils, Toronto, Nashville, Kraken, Senators, Sharks, Bruins, and those are in order from the least odds to the most. Penguins at plus 105 down to the Bruins at plus 550. I'm just curious where you guys sit with these teams. Odds are a couple of these teams are going to be wild card teams. So I just wanted to know, in the positive value, which team you would put your money on in this situation.
Sharks.
Yeah,
look at the Ducks are plus 110, and the Sharks are plus 250, and the Sharks are ahead of them, and they have games in hand. What?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, that's all day long. I would take the Sharks over them. Can the Kraken continue to score like this? Maybe. That's what made them the playoffs a few years ago. But man, I don't mind the Sharks odds there just because they're the second best odds. Like the Boston Bruins, I know they're plus 550, but I don't like their chances. So yeah, to me, it's the Sharks because the odds are the best, and they're in a playoff spot right now.
Yeah, give me the Sharks with that value are fantastic. Pittsburgh, I just think where things stand right now. I mean, do we believe in the Flyers to finish in the top three in that Metro? It's tough for me to get there. I think there's still some movement in the Metro division, and that's what maybe keeps a team like New Jersey alive in some minds because they haven't shown any reasons to keep them alive, but that division's still available. And how much you believe in some of those other teams. So I guess if I'm going to be different than Greg's, I do want San Jose, but I would take Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think for me, anything in the East is just too scary right now. It's still too early in the season. I know we're halfway through, but that's what defaults me to go to the West and the Sharks at plus 250. It just seems too juicy, especially with the Celebrini effect. Like anything at this point in this season can happen with him, and this team is definitely stepping up alongside him, so I like that. But that's all I've got for you guys today with Fill in the Blank, brought to you by Bet365.
Awesome. Now, Rupper, I do want to, before we end, we talk about McDavid's run, right? He's got 41 points in 17 games. And I outlined it yesterday that going in with his 39 points before that game, he had more points than 10 teams leading scorer on the season, just in his 16 games. That's how good of a stretch it was. Like when you go on that much of a heater, it's pretty damn impressive. And like that Buffalo and Utah were 38, Nashville 36, Islanders 35, LA 34, New Jersey 33, Calgary 28, St. Louis 30, Seattle 28, and then Vancouver 26. Now that was before last night's action. So, Seattle played. I haven't checked if a few guys went up or not. But the other thing is I dug a little deeper on McDavid, and he's averaging 2.41 points per game so far during his point streak. So if he extends it tomorrow night against the Kings, which lots of reasons to think he will, then that would be the 70th point streak in NHL history that was at least 18 games. And of the other 69, only one player during the course of their streak of 18 games or more averaged more than 2.4 points per game. It was Wayne Gretzky, and he did it 7 times. When he had his 51 game point streak, Rupper, he scored 153 points. He averaged 3 points per game over 51 points over 51 games, which is wild. But That's how good this run is by McDavid. I think sometimes I always like to put historical comparisons for people so they realize like what you're seeing isn't really normal, right? Like, and for McDavid, it isn't normal because Connor McDavid to start the season, Rupper, in his first 27 games, he had 75 shots. He had 36 points in 27 games, like decent, but not like great. And he was averaging 2.77 shots a game. In this 17 game stretch, he has 18 goals, 41 points, and 91 shots. He's averaged 5.5 shots per game now in this run. The most shots he's ever averaged in a season was when he scored 64 at 4.29. He said at the start of the year he wanted to shoot the puck more, and it took him a while, but now he's shooting all the time. And that's scary. Like you watched the game last night. He could, there's the one play in tight. He was pissed off. He had an opening. He missed it on Hellebuck. Like when he starts to shoot more, it's really hard to defend him because you used to think, well, you know what? On a 2-on-1, I can kind of cheat to the pass because he really wants to make the pass. Now he's not anymore. And that's what makes this dangerous. And I look and say, hey, you know what? He might be able to get to 25, maybe even 30 games, which is wild because it doesn't happen very often.
It's kind of funny when you talk about those things, and he had that stretch there where he just it was kind of right around when he got that hat trick. Who was that hat trick against Seattle? I think he had a hat trick.
Yeah.
He had a hat trick where from that point on, the shot volume and attempts just skyrocketed. It was like in that game, maybe even the game prior, there was. And he came out, actually, I think it was after that game, he had a quote that basically said, like, I want to shoot the puck more. And he has, and it just opens up everything else for him. And so the one other thing I've really noticed in his game, and this is not to insinuate that this was not the case prior, but there seems to be more of a objective with him. He's driving the net with authority now. Not that he doesn't usually. Like we see him driving that all the time, but all the time. Like it's not just funneling the puck towards the net. Like he is taking it hard. So he's taking it hard to the net. He's got his shot volume that's way up. So all of a sudden now, like you don't play pass. You can't play pass. You play pass, he will absolutely torch you. And we've seen some of the best goals in the National Hockey League season from his stick in the last couple of weeks. I just think back to what we're hearing right now. When you're talking about these great things and where he is in the history of the game and some of the stuff he's doing. And when Wayne Gretzky's name comes up and you start going over those Gretzky numbers, I think back to when I was done playing. I played junior hockey in Erie, Pennsylvania, in the Ontario Hockey League. And when I retired, I moved back there. And that was Connor's time when he was coming into the league. And I was involved in the hockey community there and whatever. And I had a lot of non-hockey fans that would come up to me at that time. And it was kind of like a blessing for, I think, Connor McDavid, because he went to high school in Erie, Pennsylvania. No one knew who he was. It was off the grid. And if he was playing in like a London, Ontario, that he wouldn't be able to go anywhere, right? So he's there. And I still remember friends coming up to me that knew nothing about hockey. And they're like, how is this McDonald kid? Like, I'm like, what? They're like, how's this McDonald kid? Should we take the kids, go watch him play? I'm like, oh yeah, do that. You will be talking someday. And I used Mario as a reference there because it was Western Pennsylvania. I'm like, the way that Mario Lemieux is viewed or Wayne Gretzky, he's supposed to be that. Like this is something. So it's just cool to hear when you're going over this stuff, like anybody that saw him back in that time before he was full-fledged Connor McDavid, like we are seeing history every single night with this guy. And I just want to double down what I said before. And you've been saying this for a number of weeks now. Last night was a perfect example. You came into the game with the McDavid lead by 1 point for the Art Ross, and he had himself a night. Well, then you look over to the Colorado game where they absolutely blew out the Ottawa Senators. And Nate Dogg just adding points. And on a night where Connor was awesome, Nate was just as awesome. And now Nate's up a point in Art Ross. This is going to go down as one of the best Art Ross runs I think we've ever seen.
Yeah, no, what's funny is 2 years ago, Kucherov and MacKinnon each had 140 points, right? 144 and 140. And which is, it's kind of crazy, but it might overshadow that one, which is wild. But that was a pretty good run. I think McDavid ended up at 130 or something that year too. So pretty impressive. Yeah, like MacKinnon last night gets 4 points himself, and it wasn't for Josh Manson's unreal night. Probably talk more about that game for MacKinnon, but like those two guys, MacKinnon was a point behind him going in. Now he's a point ahead of him because he got 4. McDavid got 2. Like it's going to be an awesome race between them. McDavid's trying to close the gap on the Richard. I'm not sure he can. The Art Ross is definitely up for grabs. But it's just like I'm very intrigued to see maybe how far he could go with this, because even 20 game point streaks, Rupper, don't happen very often in the NHL, right? And so that's why I was like, because I think sometimes people just get, oh yeah, sure, it's 18 games. Yeah, anybody can get an 18 game streak. I'm like, no, they can't. Right? It's hard to do. It's really hard to do. And, and like you get to 25 game streaks and stuff like that. It's even more rare. So I'll be watching just to kind of see, where he can go on this point streak, because if you look at it, there's only been Gretzky 3 times, 51, 39, and 30, Lemieux 46, and Matt Sundin 30. Those are the only guys who ever even had a 30 game point streak, right? And then if you want to even go to 25, then you can add in Yzerman and Lafleur, Paul Coffey, Patty Kane, Trottier, Crosby did it once, Brett Hull, Bernie Nichols. So even then, not many guys. Gretzky obviously did it like 6 times. He's in a different category than everybody else. But this is like, it'd be kind of fun. You talked about it. You want to see them, like MacKinnon and McDavid both are hovering on pace for 150. Like having 2 guys with 150 in the same year, man, like that would, like 140 was unreal in Kucherov and MacKinnon, but 2 guys at 150 would be wild.
And this is in a season where he didn't look like himself for a good stretch. You know what I mean? Like that just shows how good we're talking here. I think back when you're naming those names, I was in my head. I'm like, Patty Kane was on that list, because I remember Patty Kane's. What was he? He was 20. He was something, but
26.
26.
Yeah, actually, he had 26, and he's had a 20. He's one of the few guys who have had multiple 20 game point streaks in his career. He did the 20 gamer in 2019, and then he had the 26 gamer in 2015. Mitch Marner had a 23 gamer back in 2022. Crosby had 25 in 2010. So those are the only active guys who have even had a 20 game scoring streak.
I love those because you get caught up in those. I remember the Kane one, and I think that you said in 2015, and it was like you're tuning in, you're flipping around and watching your team's games, or you're going and you're like, oh, Kaner doesn't have one yet. Let's pop over to the Blackhawks game, and then you see him get his. It's just like, you know what I mean? Like it's impressive. It's impressive stuff, and that list is absolutely ridiculous. More ridiculous is Wayne's what he's done, but we're seeing today's modern version of it right now with Connor.
Yeah, no, it's fun to watch. And if you ever, I went down a rabbit hole because I was looking at these streaks, and I noticed that Gretzky in the same season, he had 2 streaks where he averaged over 2.5 points per game. He went 39 games, Rupper, where he scored 108 points. And earlier in that year, he'd had an 18 game streak where he scored 55. That year, that's the year in 1985-86. He played 80 games. He only had 3 games where he didn't score a point. 3 out of 80. And he scored 215 points that season in 80 games, which obviously is the NHL record. But imagine that. You play 80 games. I'll outline it quickly for you. He started the year on a 9-game point streak, had 24 points. Then he against Buffalo in Edmonton, didn't score a point. Then he went 39 games, had 108 points. Went into Chicago, January 27th, didn't get a point. Then he scored 55 points in 18 games. And then on March 11th, he didn't get a point in Minnesota. And then finished the year on a 12-game point streak with 27 points. So he had no point on November 1st, no point January 27th, no point March 11th. That's it in one season. Like, that is wild, man. Like sometimes I think the younger generation doesn't appreciate Gretzky because they see some highlights. Oh, the goalie stood up and all this BS garbage. I don't think they really appreciate because, the goalies weren't as good. Well, the goalies weren't as good for everybody. No one else came close.
Yeah.
Right? He'd win the scoring race by 70, 80 points. Right. So that's what I kind of chuckle at, is just he was on a different freaking planet.
He was. And I don't believe we're ever going to see that again to that level, as far as if we're just saying and going off straight numbers. But we're seeing the version of it now with Connor. And I think back, maybe because it was just like a clean number, but I think back to that 2021 season. It was a shortened season. Yeah. And, that was when I remember the talk was, can he get to 100? Can he get to 100 in the season? Like, it's 56 games. That to me went to be, look at it right here, 105. In 56 games, 105 points. That to me was like, that to me feels like a game. It feels like, I'm going to get to 100. That'd be cool if I can get to 100 and we're only playing 50 games. And he just that is not supposed to happen. Like, that was one where it's just in video game mode. My head's like, what happens if that's 82? What does that look like if that season's 82? If you just go off of the numbers, I mean, that would be his best season of all. But he does the unthinkable, and that's what makes him the best player in the world.
Well, you look at him right now, and he is on pace, Rupper, for 98 points in 56 games this year, and MacKinnon pace for 100 in 56. So, and McDavid, you mentioned, had the slow start. Like, if I go off of his last 17 games and he continues that over his next 12 games, like if he continues at 2.4 points for the next 12 games, guess what? He's at 105 points in the first 56 games of the season. So, which was 150 plus point pace, which he matched then 2 years later in 2023. And I just, two guys, 150 points is rare, right? Gretzky, Lemieux, Esposito, Yzerman, Bernie Nichols, Connor McDavid. To have two guys in one season, like, that's what I'm hoping for. MacKinnon and McDavid battle to 150. It would, and I'll give you credit. You called this like a month ago when you said, hey, or maybe it's 3 weeks ago when McDavid started on that heater where you said, hey, I'd like to see something special. Well, you looked in your crystal ball, Rupper, and it's working. So that's good.
Yeah.
Have yourself a great weekend, my man. And we will chat with you next week on The Rundown, as always, brought to you by Bet365.
Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.